I run this global research institute, and we've just finished this 19-country study looking at how engaged people are at work. And the consensus, although it does vary a little bit country to country, the consensus is that we've got about 16% of people that are fully engaged at work. And everyone else, they're not toxic, but they're just coming to work. So for almost 85% of people, work is a transaction. You just come in, you sell your time and your talent, you get some money, and you go home. And work becomes a place in which you lose yourself. So the challenge for us as we move forward into a world in which we want people to be creative, to be innovative, to be resilient, to be persistent. When we want people to be that, and yet 85% of us are just coming to work, we have a problem. And in some countries this is so, when we have unemployment rates that are at historical lows, less than 5%, how the heck are we going to build workplaces that actually, by design, get the best out of people? So as part of the research, we slice the data to see what drives engagement. Is it length of service? Is it level in the company? Is it education? Is it what sector are you in? Gender? All sorts of questions like that. And when you really push on it, it turns out there's one thing that explains more variation in whether you're engaged or not than anything else. And that is simply, do you work on a team or not? If you say you work on a team, you are 2.3 times more likely to be fully engaged than if you don't. Now, 83% of people say they work on teams, so there's clearly some very engaging teams and some less engaging teams. But if you don't work on a team, your chances of being engaged at work are very, very low, which is kind of interesting given that many of us do sole proprietorship work, gig economy kind of work. When you are lonely, you are disengaged. And there's an awful lot of people that are lonely at work. Well, it starts with the team leader. We don't actually make a virtue of how to be a team leader. We don't really help leaders know how to build followership. We talk a lot about leadership as though you ought to have a certain set of qualities as a leader. But then again, you look at a list of really good leaders and they're all different. So it sure looks as though leadership is idiosyncratic. We spend a lot of time talking about that versus what we should be talking about, which is followership. And we ought to be inquisitive around what do the best leaders do to get people to give their breath to someone else's picture of the future, which is what a leader does. We should be an awful lot more diligent about studying what happens on our best teams, not what are the attributes that every leader is supposed to have, because when you look at the real world, they don't all have them, but rather flip that around. What do the best followers feel when they give their followership to someone else? If we really dig into that, we make a virtue of that, be curious about that, we'll do a much better job of building more teams like our best teams. At the moment, we really don't. Basically, a team emerges because I ask a bunch of people to come join on a project and you all go, yes, yes, yes. So teams aren't a static, predefined thing on an org chart. They are an emergent, constantly changing set of requests and acceptances. And the weird thing is, you take a company like Google, Google has no idea where its work is. GE has no idea where its work is because it can't see where these teams are. And yet, almost all work, 83% of work is teamwork. We can't see the teams. Why? Because we've built tools for HR, not for team leaders. We have no tools for team leaders. We've just got these static HR tools. So one of the things we're going to see changing, and we'll see this starting in the next year or two, we'll see many, many more tools built for busy team leaders and team members to use in the regular stride of their work. We make our tools, and then our tools make us. And so in this case, we can talk about creativity and collaboration and innovation all we want. But if we actually just see the boxes on the org chart and we deploy engagement, collaboration, creativity through the boxes on the org chart, which we do, then we miss work. Tools, what tools we use to understand where work is going to be such an important part of the next 5 years. The most powerful superminds are useless unless they can see and capitalize on the difference between people. The best leaders, the most productive people at work, are brilliant at individualizing. They see the uniqueness of people and they pull people together in powerful complementary partnerships. Well, if you think about superminds, the most important capability when it comes to getting more teams like your best teams is individualization.